In this video, I'll look at the MIA material in Maya. It's a versatile utility shader made to be used for architectural surfaces. To start, I'm going to get some white paint or white plaster on most of the surfaces in here. I'm going to go for a sleek modern look for this education center. I'll pick objects like my columns and maybe my ceiling as well and get some white paint on. I'll right-click and assign a new material. In the Assign New Material dialog, I'll go down to Mental Ray Materials and choose the MIA material X Passes. MIA material was the first one. The MIA material X has improvements on it, and the X Passes allows for composite passes using Mental Ray. When you're making materials, the first thing you want to do when you make a new material is name it. I'm going to call this one White Paint ES for eggshell, and maybe I'll do a flat for the ceiling. We've got a number of presets available, and that's where I usually like to start. I'll begin by clicking and holding on the presets and choosing Matte Finish Replace. What this does in a matte finish is puts a Lambertian roughness under a blend shader. We get the best of both worlds here. I'm going to make the color white and maybe add a little warmth into it. The roughness is a microscopic roughness that spreads the light or diffuses it across a surface. I'll put a little bit of reflectivity in. And I'll bring the glossiness down, so it's not a perfect mirror. What I've got are glossy samples. This is the quality of that reflection. For this particular surface, which needs a little bit of reflection, but not much, I'll check Highlights Only. What this does is only reflects where it's in specular highlight, not in diffuse surfaces. As I don't want the paint to shine as much as have a little color from what's going on, this will work well. I'm ready for my next surfaces. I'll pick some of my other surfaces and assign these same materials to them. Now we'll work on the floor. For this floor, I'd like to do a polished concrete floor that has a pretty good reflection but is blurred somewhat. I'll right-click and assign a new material, and under Mental Ray Materials, choose the MIA material X Passes. If you haven't noticed by now, this is my go-to material. If it's not skin or car paint, it's an MIA material X Passes. I use it for everything. I have a motto, and I use this when I teach as well in class. If you go Mental Ray, go all the way. Now my students look at me and laugh, but when they start to light, it's true. I'll go under Presets and choose a Pearl Finish and pick Replace. The Pearl Finish allows for soft, blurry reflections. First, because it's concrete, I'll put a touch of roughness in. And I'll bring up the reflectivity and glossiness. It's a polished concrete floor. And I'm putting in values that I've used before and seem to work, and I can always adjust them. We can start to see a little bit of a shine going here. Then I'll scroll down to the Interpolation section. What this lets us do, and this is one of the best features I think of the MIA material, is allow us to interpolate or draw a reflection at a percentage of the rendering size. Right now it's a really spectacular reflection, being calculated at double the rendering size. I'm going to take mine down to 1. So it's still going to be run at 1280 by 720 for the reflection. However, I've got reflection samples. As these get higher, the reflection gets blurrier. As they're lower, the reflection is clearer. I'll try it at 6 and see how it looks. If we need, we can check Use High Detail Distance. I might check it for local reflections around the eco's feet, and those will be clear. I'll put a distance in of 24 and see how it looks. Now I'm ready to put color on. If you notice, what I think about in a material, and especially the MIA, is what is the surface I'm dealing with? Is it shiny or not? Is it rough or not? Then, how much reflection is there? And if there is a reflection, is it blurry or not? Finally, lastly, and I can't stress this one enough, lastly, I'll look at the color of the material and add in textures if I have them. For this, I'm going to make a deep charcoal, maybe a warm French gray or deep colored floor. I'll bring down the value and pull up the saturation just a little bit and swing the hue a little towards orange. I've got kind of a deep charcoal or very, very dark gray-brown going. I'll go through and assign other materials to the scene and see how it looks. I've assigned materials to the rest of the visible objects in the scene, except for the outside. Haven't dealt with that one yet, and it has no lighting anyway. What we can see here, aside from the gray ecos needing materials, is that I really get a good color bounce from the lights once I start to get the right materials on. I've put a chrome on the base of the columns. That might need a little extra light. But the white paint works really nice, as does the ceiling. The floor is fairly dark, and because of the final gather bounce, it's actually catching color from the floor and bouncing it up and warming up the scene. It's a generally nicely lit, albeit a bit dim, but soft-looking room. Getting the right material on is important. We want to use the MIA Material X passes for, well, really everything. It works for rock, carpet, paint, wood, anything you need. There's even metals. What I've tried here on the column bases is the preset for chrome, which really looks like, well, chrome as you'd expect. There's also glass available if you need. Here's a quick word on glasses. Glass thin is window glass. It does not refract. It won't distort anything you see through the glass, which is physically correct for window glasses, which are very thin. Glass thick is a thicker glass, maybe a rounded glass, such as a drinking glass, where you've got entry and exit normals on the surface. You know, the classic tutorial where you model a wine glass, use glass thick on it. Glass solid is a solid glass volume, a cylinder of glass, a block of glass, a very thick piece of glass that needs to do accurate refraction. Glass physical is a truly physically accurate glass in case you need. Frosted glass, as the name said, behaves like a translucent frosted glass. For most things in design, I use glass thin to make the windows look like, well, windows. I start with the presets because it makes it fairly easy. And like I've said in the MIA, the first things I look at are not color or bump. The first things I look at are reflection, roughness, shine, and interpolation of the reflection. Then finally I'll come back and look at color. I think with the MIAs, you should be able to get a really nice looking image without textures. Textures would be the icing on the cake to make it look really sharp. So use the MIA Material X passes, name your materials when you start, and you'll get great looking stuff.